Zoe Whitman is my business partner, my friend, colleague, and so much more. We were strangers 5 years ago, and we have been building businesses together for the last 5 years. But I also think we will never be able to build a business without each other. Today, we're going to learn more about Zoe, what makes her her, and her fierce independence, and how that has served her, but also what that has cost her. Welcome to the Bookkeepers Podcast, sponsored by Xero. When did you first realise that you didn't want to work for someone else?
Oh, I think I always thought I was going to work for someone else. So I've had jobs forever. And then when I was pregnant with my daughter, I started realising that it just wasn't going to work. I think I got more and more frustrated actually with jobs and just finding I just felt like I wasn't very good at anything. I just kept moving, looking for the next thing. And I was like, one of these jobs I'm going to actually be brilliant at. I had this idea of what success would look like, and I didn't seem to ever be able to do it. And then I just was so fed up with the hours. This was when I was working in a sort of insurance finance role, the weekends and late working and stuff. And I don't want to do this forever. But I also was terrified of not being employed. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to be self-employed. I read all the books, and I remember reading a 4-hour work week and thinking, oh, yes, this is how it should be. And I was showing it to people and they were like, oh, like it was like a terrible
cult.
Yeah, like a cult. Yeah. And I wasn't allowed to think like that. And then I was like, oh, well, there's something different here. I need to go and see if I could work for myself. But it was scary.
Do you think you will ever be employed again?
No, I think I'm completely unemployable, which really freaks me out, actually, because I still think there's something about the feeling of security that you could get a job.
You talk about being fiercely independent. Where does that come from?
My background, so I'm the eldest of 2 girls. My mum's a single mum. She brought us up on her own. And I think because my mum had some health challenges with her mental health, she still does, I think I had to grow up quite fast. And I think mum probably empowered me to lead, actually. I haven't really said it like that before, but to look after my sister and help with things. Like I can remember going down to the post office as a child and getting my mum's benefit money when you used to tear a strip out of the book and they give you the cash over the counter. So I think she kind of taught me to do lots of grown-up stuff early, which must have been a help to her. And I think off the back of that, I just learned how to be a grown-up and then just decided I could do that. I don't think I'd really realised that I was, until really you and I have had big conversations about this, I don't think I'd seen it in the same way. But I think it's been something that's sort of held me back without me realising that because I'm trying to be independent, I'm not progressing.
And how I see it kind of play out sometimes is that I feel you think you can only really rely on you, and you expect people to let you down. Is that true?
Yeah.
And where's that come from?
I think there's a really great book that I've probably told you about it. I've told loads of people to read it. It's like the kind of thing I'll buy you and I'll be like, I hope we're close enough that I can say, here's a really good therapy book you might like. It's called Reinventing Your Life. And it is a really good read because it was given to me when I had therapy. And it's about different life traps, they call it. So it's a very American book. It's some doctors talking about people they've seen in their clinic who have various challenges. And they talk about this set of life traps that people generally have. And that's really stuck with me. I mean, I read this in my 20s. And for me, the thing that comes up over and over again, amongst other things, is this sort of abandonment life trap, they call it. So I think and looking back and reflecting on that, I've had experiences in my life where people have left me at short notice. And I think that I've created that for myself. You know how you look for comfortable situations because you try and recreate the situations you're familiar with. I think that in like life and relationships and things, I've also looked for environments where I can then be abandoned. I know that sounds crazy. But my mum, because of my mum's health, she couldn't always take care of us. So we were in care. I started school when I was in care. I was sort of taken away from Swanage, where I grew up, and lived with a family in Somerset, where my sister was a toddler. And we were there for quite a long time. And then we were really lucky that we had a foster family in Dorset, not far from us. In fact, I'm still really close to my foster mum. And they were sort of consistently there for us. But it didn't make it any easier just having like, you come home from school and your stuff would be packed up in bin bags, ready to go and stay somewhere else. So I think that and you know, we stay in hotels a lot together, and I find it really hard to borrow stuff because I've got lots of experiences of not having the right things, because my stuff had been like shoved in a bag and taken somewhere where I then lived for a while. I might not have really essential stuff like trainers or something, and then I'd have to ask for someone to buy me some trainers who might not have the budget to buy me the trainers. And I think because of that, I found it really hard to ask for things, ask for help, ask for support. So I've generally grown up to just expect to do everything for myself.
What was that like, you know, being a young girl, coming home and being told you've got to move out of home and your stuff was in a bin bag?
Yeah, it was really
hard.
But I see it as like I just have like a picture of it in my head. It's not, I don't really have a lot of emotion tied to it, and I think I've had a lot of time talking this through, so I can talk about it in a very matter-of-fact way, which sometimes shocks people, because I just say, oh well, when I was in care we did this. So yeah, I've really, like, that was just a fact. Like, mum and I are super close, and
you are.
Yeah, so it's not like that is.
And the tables have turned, like, you have helped and made sure that she has that safe environment. Yeah. You have become the parent there.
Know. You say that to me all the time.
You are.
I literally like, Mum, do you need some shopping? Do you want me to do this for you?
Yeah.
But she's obviously trained.
And there's no resentment or anything. That it's pure love, and you know that she did the best that she could there. And I think that's a different, you know, other people may have heard stories about, you know, being in care because of different reasons. So I think it shows that there are a multitude of reasons, and there's no and you have an amazing relationship with your mum, but it has shaped so many other things for you. And how I see it is that you are fiercely independent when it comes to work and work ethic. And I'm constantly saying to you, why are you doing that? Why? We have a team. Please let them help you.
Yeah.
But so much so to a point where you'll do something not just once on your own. You forget you've done it, and then you do it again. And I think I'm curious as to the way people behave and what their background has done for them. And I think this really led you to this career path. What did accountancy and this profession give you that you hadn't got earlier in life?
So I at school I was like a good girl, you know, like I did well at school and everything, and I was good at maths, so I just thought I should be able to get a good job. But I didn't really know what a good job looked like. So I've worked since I was 11. I worked in a bakery and lots of, like, I grew up in a seaside town, so it's all sort of seasonal tourist related work. And I mean, I had 4 jobs at one point, but they were all waitressing or shop work and that kind of thing. And then I went in and I worked at Boots, the chemist, when I was 16. I actually chose, when we were 15, did you have to do this? I did work experience at school. And you had to choose from a list what job you were going to do and then apply for it, I guess. And like lots of my friends, I remember like someone I know went and got a job at Sunseeker, like he wanted to be an engineer, and someone else went off and actually worked for an accountancy practice. I went and worked at Boots because I thought, well, Boots will be able to give me a Saturday job when I'm old enough. So I went and worked there. No real like vision of work. My mum had worked for Woolworths at one point. So she was like, this is perfect. Boots, working at Boots would be like, you know, dream stuff. So I was like, that sounds great. I'll do that. And there was a lady there called Faye who was the supervisor. And I was like, wow, she is like amazing. I'm going to be a supervisor at Boots when I grow up. That was literally my goal.
Aspiration. Yeah.
And then I went off, and school obviously try and train you to go off to university because they want you to get, they want the kids who are good to go because it's good for their record. And I can remember my economics teacher was like really good at economics. He was trying to like get me to apply to like, you know, some great universities, but I just, because of my mum's health, it's all mental health for her, and I think that the reason I haven't got any bad feeling or anything, and mum and I are close, is because she's just had a really rough time, like struggling with your mental health in the 80s and 90s. She did not get looked after like that. You couldn't have a conversation about it the way you can now, and I feel really sad for her more than anything. But because she wasn't well, and because I'd found myself a controlling relationship, I didn't feel I could move away. So I went to my local university in Bournemouth, which didn't offer economics, which is what I wanted to do. So I did an accounting degree. I started an accounting degree. And then, because when I was 19, the benefits system, so if you don't work, obviously you earn your income from benefits. My mum wasn't working, she wasn't very well. You don't get paid for your children being 19, and at university, like the benefits stopped. My mum couldn't afford to keep me at home. So I had to move out. So I had to leave university because I was terrified of the idea of getting a loan. I didn't know what to do. I went and lived with a friend whose parents were in a domestic abuse relationship, which was terrifying. I couldn't be at home. I did sort of cut my mum off because I couldn't forgive her for me losing my home. And I had to find my own home. So my boyfriend at the time and I somehow managed to get a mortgage on a house, and it was only because I got a job as a trainee accountant. So I think that when you asked what did the accounting profession do for me, it gave me massive social mobility. There's lots of people where I grew up who never bought a house, didn't have a career. And I'm an ACCA member. I joined the ACCA when I was 19 and I got that job. My boss at the time was like, well, you've done a bit of uni, I'll just stick you straight into ACCA. I didn't do AAT. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to the ACCA. And, at the time they did this partnership with Oxford Brookes so I could get my degree. So although, I felt like a real failure. I'd given up on my degree. So being able to then go and get my degree through their distance learning, which sadly they don't do anymore. But that was, from a sort of good girl ticking a box point of view, that was a really great thing. So I think I owe a lot of everything, like the people that I've met, the people that have inspired me. There have been people I've met who haven't been great for me in my life, but who I learned a lot from, just from spending time in offices with people who had career aspirations that I never could have seen when I thought the best job I'm going to get is working in Boots.
Wow. What were you told about success growing up? And how did that shape or clash with your own values? You said that your mum had a job in Woolworths, and that was a level of success. But when you saw or experienced people with money, and maybe that's family as well, people that were doing well, what was your belief around that?
My mum's family. So just to say, I don't have anything to do with my dad. So my mum and dad broke up when I was little, and I don't know anything about him. I met him once when I was 19. So I know, my mum's family obviously had a lot of sort of influence around my beliefs around money. My grandma was a very successful lady, as far as I understand. She ran a stone quarry, Purbeck Stone. and my mum's one of 5, and all of her sons were involved in the quarry at various times, and as far as I can tell, have gone off and been successful in their own ways. I think that was quite stressful for her, running the quarry after my granddad passed away when I was very young. But because of my mum's health, she was never involved in that business. So I didn't, although I was aware, my family's quite a big family in Swanage, like everyone knows everyone. And as far as I was aware, when I learnt like people knew who my family were, I wondered why we weren't successful.
Yeah.
You know, and I imagine because of mum's mental health, she was a bit of a... I used to get phone calls from people saying, you've got to sort your mum out. Your mum's doing this. You need to come now. I remember getting called when I was at work at my first accounting job, and someone's like, you know, my mum had like threatened to take her life, and someone was on the phone saying to me, you've got to come here. Your mum's doing it again. And like, no, understand it. So whatever I thought about success, that I suppose actually I hadn't really put this together, but maybe it was like you can be successful, but it doesn't mean you can like care for your family. I don't know. Like, there's definitely stuff we've spoken about before where I told you, you know, as a teenager, I wanted to go on this really cool school trip. They went to Egypt. I was like, and there was another one, there was a skiing trip, and there were it was like there were like the school trips that only the rich families got to go on, right? And I went and asked my grandma for some money. Could I borrow the money? Like, I had a job, I could pay it back. Could I have the money? I had to pay the deposit for this trip. And she told me, never a lender or borrower be. And that really like made, you know, even borrowing money for a mortgage feels hard.
I know. Oh my god. Yeah. You don't like it. That is a belief that you're working on though.
Yeah.
And I think you've recognised that, oh my goodness, that come from that moment when you really wanted to go away and you weren't even asking for the money. You were going to pay it back.
Yeah.
And your grandma said that, and that has become something that you recognise in yourself that you have lived out. Mm-hmm. That I don't actually think you wouldn't be a lender. I think you would give time and effort and things like that. But borrowing money is a trigger for you.
Yeah.
Like you have struggled with that. But that's understandable in that. Like, that was a statement, and she was like, that's how you need to be.
And I took that. As you are, you know, a lady who's succeeded. I should listen to you. You must know what you're doing. Yeah.
Absolutely. What do you think being fiercely independent has cost you?
I don't know. I need to think about this one before I answer it.
Yeah.
What's it cost me? I don't know. What do you think it's cost me?
I think that you don't realise that people want to help you.
Yeah.
And that you, by doing things on your own continuously and absolutely thriving and getting by, you're living the fact that it's possible to do it on your own. So that it's like a compound. Mm-hmm. So then you still keep doing it on your own. And I think what you will do is obviously bring up children that are independent, but actually you don't want them to be as independent. Mm-hmm. So you do a lot for them, and they know that you're there. So I think they might be like, but mummy doesn't ask for help.
Maybe. Yeah, that's...
But you want them to ask for help.
Yeah.
So what is it
I'm
about...
not modelling that.
No, you're not. And that's fine. But what do you want them to be? Do you want them to be fiercely independent, or do you want them to ask for help when they need it?
Yeah, I want them to have backup. I felt alone a lot, and I don't always trust everybody. Like, you know, Ollie and I lived together for a long time, my husband and I, before we bought a house together. Like, you know, I want to have my own things, and I bought a new used car recently. And I want it to be my car. Like, I haven't had my own car. Like, it's so crazy, isn't it? And I don't know why. Like, there's no reason for that.
You said something to me which really made hit how you adore Ollie. He is your person. You have a lovely marriage. You've got a beautiful home. And we had some saving pots in the business, and we were talking about saving up, like, and having a retreat house, and we were talking about that. And then and we was thinking of, like, a place that your mum could be most of the time, but we could record from and things like that. And then your mum is all settled and she's got a place near you and it's all working well. And you kind of said something, can we get a caravan or something? And I was like, we could. And you're like, it'd be really good just to have somewhere that if I need that second home, I've got it. And I was like, wow, like and that's got to come from being in care, like believing that your home isn't necessarily guaranteed.
Yeah. But
I know you love a caravan too, for just having a caravan. But the way you said it to me wasn't like, oh, I just want this. It was like there was a deep need of, like, if something goes wrong, I'm okay.
Yeah, I've
got that roof.
Like, yeah. So I lived with a friend whose family were in a violent domestic abuse relationship. It was absolutely terrifying. And I spoke to the other people who were in the house, and I can remember being awake in the night saying, we have to call the police. And no one would do that because they would get drawn into the fight, all of this. And this happened all the time. And I couldn't go home. I couldn't go home to my own house. My mum didn't have somewhere for me. And that was really rough, like really, really hard. And then I bought a house with my boyfriend at the time. When we were 19, we moved in there, and I felt completely trapped. And we've seen each other in the last 10 years or something, I'm sure. And I'm sure we've made our peace and we've got mutual friends and things. But, I was ready to leave that relationship years before, but I couldn't because I had trapped myself in a mortgage that I couldn't leave because he couldn't keep the house on his, or I assumed he couldn't pay the mortgage on his own. So I then didn't have a house. Then I lived with a cousin. I moved out of there, lived with a cousin. I don't know if you know this. And I lived in her loft room. She had like a maisonette with an upstairs. It wasn't an official bedroom. And I went out one night, I was going to someone's wedding, and I came back and the roof had fallen in and I had to sleep on the sofa. And she never locked the front door. She slept with a knife under a pillow. Like, this was not a great living situation. And then I lived with someone else. And then eventually I bought my own house. I bought, oh my God, it's like never ending joke. I bought a flat. Bought this 2-bedroom ex-council flat. My neighbour upstairs was an absolute nightmare. There was a night there was the police up and down the lane. Like, people were jumping over the fence into my garden. I put the house up for sale, the flat up for sale the next day. And eventually I bought the house where I lived, like, very happily. I moved in with a boyfriend who I then found out was cheating on me. I didn't have a house to move to because I had lodgers in my house. So the amount of time, and I don't know if I've created that situation where I've had to be abandoned or, like, end something quickly. Like, I'm obviously not alien to the idea of just going, oh shit, I haven't got anywhere to sleep tonight. I'll go and who do I know that I can sleep on the sofa with? So, and I know that's never going to happen with Ollie, but I suppose I've always just thought, what's the backup plan here? Like, I worry something's going to go wrong. Like, I spend a lot of time thinking this isn't safe, that I don't know why. So there are things like money or cash flow, those things will trigger me big time because like, money is security to me. Yeah. And we've had, like, so many conversations as business partners, like, and this is what, like, we speak openly about this because we have to, because when you're building a business and it's your family and my family's security. So we've had to have these conversations. Yeah. If I spoke to you 10 years ago, what would you be saying about your future? So let's go back 10 years. What was happening then for Zoe? I got married 10 years ago. So I was 10 years ago now, I was planning my wedding. I was hoping that I'd have kids. Like, I'd left that all quite late. But, you know, for the best, obviously hadn't met the right person.
Thank God.
Oh, thank God. But I mean, I thought I would be employed. Like, I just thought I'd work my way up. I hadn't found the right job. I was always all right. But I think I was just trying to be the best I could. I was actually in a job where I was very frustrated that I just couldn't seem to succeed. I don't know. It was like I didn't get it. Maybe I didn't get it.
Was you scared about becoming a mum and a parent and the responsibility you knew because you had an old head on your shoulders from that point of view? Did you like desperately want it with Ollie? But was there a fear as well?
And he wanted to have kids. So like I knew we'd had all of that discussion. I think I'd always worried about how the like working around kids bit would work. When we lived together in Bristol, we had this little flat by the harbour side, and we had a neighbour upstairs called Hank. He was 93 when we met him, and he was like a war veteran. He was in the RAF. He's written some books, actually. He's brilliant. And he wasn't really called Hank. But he, we met him because he had like a box of wine delivered, and we were like, oh, we'll bring it upstairs. Anyway, he was like, oh, hello. Oh, look at that pretty girl. Oh, what's she doing with you? He was that kind of person. And we'd go up to his flat and we'd like drink whiskey with him and help him work out how to use his like e-reader on his computer and stuff like that. But he always said to me, you know, like he'd lost some of his family in a car accident, and like really, you know, really tragic story. And he said, you know, when you have kids, you need to give up work and you need to be with your family all the time because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And I was like, yeah, Hank, you know, like I love the idea of that, but I don't have money or backup, and that isn't how it works anymore. Like you have to work full time. Like there's no way I'm going to pay for a house and childcare and all the things that I want to do if I don't work full time. We'll both work full time and the kids will go to childcare. And I mean, I wish he was here today because I could say to him, you're absolutely right. I need to be with kids. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So I think what I thought is absolutely not how it turned out, but I thought I was on a path to a really generic employment, progress through the hierarchy, work really hard, not see my kids very much, kind of.
And your kids, you did have, like, when you started on that path, and that you've learned that along the way. That didn't happen as soon as you gave birth to Heidi. They did go into childcare and nursery.
Yeah.
But now that you've got more freedom with your business, you don't let anyone else look after them other than Paul.
They won't. Yeah, Paul's great with the kids. They don't like childcare. No. I mean, I know that isn't, like, most parents don't get the luxury of saying, oh, my kids cry when they go to childcare, so I'm just not going to send them. You know, Heidi went to nursery 5 days a week, and I worked full time at a certain point with both of them. They went like all the time. But there have also been times where, because I was employed when I had Heidi, but I was self-employed when I had Wilf was able to come with me to work a lot of the time and have a much less time in nursery. So we've had all versions. All. Yeah.
You've built businesses. You've helped thousands of people. But is there a moment that still makes you feel like you're not enough?
Well, I closed my business in 2020. That is a constant thing that always haunts me, I suppose. You know, we on this podcast, we give advice around business, and yes, we have built, like, Six Figure Bookkeeper is a successful business. It supports our families, and you know, my bookkeeping practice did that. It gave me flexibility around my kids until it didn't.
Why did it not?
Well, in lockdown, we just ran out of money.
But it was a global pandemic.
I know.
It wasn't your fault.
No, I know.
You really beat yourself up about this.
I know, but the thing is, with everything we do, we teach business, and I think there's a lot of judgment that comes from outside of our friendly circle and community of who's she to do that, like why is she thinking she can teach anyone anything. So, and I'm really aware of that, which is why, you know, preparing for this conversation right now, I said I'm really uncomfortable with it because I'm usually interviewing.
Yeah, and you don't let me ask the questions.
No.
But I've got you now. But I think it's really important because I speak about my business failures. And don't get me wrong, at the time I saw them as pure failure and felt shame and felt that I was less than and all of that stuff. But I now, because we, you know, Six Figure is a success, we're building Hey Monica as well. And obviously Hey Monica is very early days and, you know, who knows where it goes, but we have a lot more confidence. And I see your work ethic and what you are able to do. And I see you nothing other than bloody brilliant businesswoman, like fantastic. And I wish you could see that for yourself and wipe this bit away of, you didn't, like, I would have done everything you did so differently, right? At that point. And I did, because I had a business at the same time.
Yeah.
And I did things differently. But I look back at what you did and I'm like, wow, that's really impressive. I think what you did was scary.
Well, you know, we were talking about borrowing, right? Like one of the options, it was cash flow. Ollie and I put £10,000 into the business when I got an office. I got an office right at the beginning of 2020. So I suddenly had this extra overhead. I had a team.
Very little babies.
2 babies. And, you know, obviously just even kitting an office out is an investment. And then we were in a situation where we had clients who were like, oh, actually, we can't afford to pay you, or, you know, we're going to be closing. Can we pay you less this month? You know, it was all of that. It like just piled on and on and on. And what I could have done is taken a loan out. But, and that would have been an option, 100%.
Go back to what
but
you were speaking about.
Exactly that.
Never
and I think that's
a borrower or lender be.
And I think that's, you know, that was sort of ingrained. And I looked at cash flow projection. I thought, I don't know when I'm going to pay this money back, because I'm dipping in to be able to try and, before I can even start to sort of get back out. And I decided that for me, with the situation as it was with like the age of the children, someone had to look after them. Ollie had an income. That was the right decision for us as a family. So I back the decision. I believe it was the right thing for us to do.
Yeah.
All of my clients were looked after. They have found other bookkeepers. One of them took one of my staff on. Like it all worked out for the best as it could have done. But I feel, I don't know, shame is the word actually, Joe. Like I was going to say regret. I don't regret it. It was the right thing to do at that time. I think I would make the same decision again. But I find I do feel ashamed. It's sad that I didn't make it work. Like it was a real grief. And also I know that impacts my credibility in the role I have in this business. And for, you know, years, I couldn't even really fully be involved in, like, I felt like I had to do something else that wasn't Six Figure Bookkeeper, because I didn't feel I had the authority to be in this role.
And luckily we have spoken and got to know, because we were strangers when we started this business. And for me, I was worried that you didn't believe in the business. That's how I saw it when you were doing other things. And it's really been helpful to understand you as a person and your independence and how much. But it took a long time for you to own up to that part of it. Because as well, it's funny, you say that people say that, I see it as I took a loan, and that loan is still being paid off now, even though I've sold the business. Obviously, we did a deal so I did the other way. Now but that was a risk. And I look at what you did as so grown up, and I think, I'm like, okay, it was a risk that did pay off. But I don't see it as a bad thing, and it's a perception. And we did have a really difficult conversation one day. So, and this is when you started to open up to me about this, because I offered to buy you out because I felt that you weren't in this. And like, you know, where I talk about like obsession, you know, and I was like, I don't think she's obsessed, but you weren't. You were bringing this other story that I didn't realise, because I don't see it. I don't see that you don't have absolutely every right to stand here. I don't see what you did with your business as a failure. I see it as a really good business decision. I don't see what you see. So therefore, I don't understand when you're acting in a way, because I'm like, why would you be acting like that? So it's been really good to understand more and realise, like, I don't see what you say there. And I have had shame as well in business, but now I use that as a bit more of a level. I think my shame came more from redundancy than business failure, because, and maybe that's an upbringing kind of thing as well.
Yeah, that's so not on you. Redundancy, like that is not.
But how weird is that? I see that as and this is the thing. We all have our own interpretations, and I don't believe that anyone thinks of you like anything, but you do, and that's all that matters. Have you ever thought about giving it all up? Like these feelings that you have now and have done. I know you closed that business. I don't feel like that was you giving up. I feel like that was you making a really sensible decision. But have you felt since we've been running Six Figure? And I did say to you, shall I buy you out?
No, I love this. I love this business.
Yeah.
No, I haven't. No, when I closed about the books, I went and got a job as an accountant, which was like the perfect thing to do at that time. It didn't work out. I think it was like my expectations and their expectations of me weren't quite aligned, and you know, we live and learn. And I suppose I sort of learned through that I feel trapped in, like, because, you know, you said, would I be employed again? I don't think I could be, because I think I know too much about the world or something, maybe.
You know too much about business. You know too much. And when you don't own the business or run it and have that kind of ability to steer the ship, and then when you're giving your opinions and it's not being maybe listened to, or it's not the direction of someone else's direction, that's frustrating, and that can you feel like a caged animal. I do
have that, like, I can see that this is going to look like this, let's go.
You're building a movement now.
You're building a movement too, you know.
But I'm interviewing
That's such a funny question, a funny thing to say.
No, but you are, and in your own right as well. You are known as Zoe Whitman outside of the Six Figure, and we help bookkeepers to build businesses that work for them. But what is the thing you really want to be known for? What's your legacy?
Oh, that is a great question. What is my legacy? The thing that gets me so much is that my mum found it really difficult to make a living because she couldn't make work around children. And that hasn't actually changed. Like, that hasn't changed in 40 years, or I'm 42. So she found it really difficult around her health. And like, we have people in our community who can work around their health, who can work around their family, who are single parents. My mum couldn't do that. But for most people, until they work out how to do it, they can't do it either. And usually it's about pricing. I think there are big issues with the way that we price any kind of service, whether it's bookkeeping or anything else like that. And it's going to change anyway, because the way that work works, because of AI, automation, robots, everyone's job's going to look different in 5 years' time. So everything's going to have to be changed anyway in the way. And I've got theories about this, but I think pricing has to change in the whole system. But I hope that my legacy is that I can be part of showing people how to apply that, so that they can then have time with their kids. Yeah. You know, my husband had cancer a couple of years ago, and that changed everything about how I saw work. Work is a vehicle. Yes, it can be something that you live and breathe and you are obsessed with. But you've got to remember that you're doing it for a reason.
100%. I'm going to go on to my final question. If Heidi listens to this one day, what do you want her to hear?
Oh, dear me. Do you know, I think she's going to start her own podcast. What would I like Heidi to hear? Do you know what? I would love to have a situation where she doesn't have to worry about anything. Like, that's what I'm trying to create all the time. But I suppose the thing is, I want her to know that she can trust people and rely on people to be there for her, and she doesn't have to do it all on her own. I've said to you before, like, I'm really jealous isn't the right word, envious of the relationship you have with your family. I don't have that with my family. I am close to my mum, I'm close to my sister, but it's just us. And I often say to Ollie, we didn't get the opportunity to have as many children as we would have liked to have. And I want to, like, create that home, that, like, base of support, because I didn't have it growing up. But I want her to feel she's got that around her. So yeah, I think that's it, really.
And you're doing that now. The skills you're giving her now, she will be able to work from anywhere, and she's going to know that, and she's going to have that support. She's going to know that.
Yeah.
Thank you for this. It's been lovely. Love you so much.
Love you too. Thank you.
Oh.
I'm Zoe, nice to meet you. Now you know my life history.